Hello, people. This is Dr. Dunn. Here I am. Hold on a second. And as you know from our last class, I forgot to turn on my recorder um, for a few minutes at the beginning of class. So I have to talk about some things, at least go over some things in case someone needs to use the video lecture to review or was absent or something. So that's what I'll do. I'll go through it quickly. Just through my notes so that you have the information. Okay, but good to see you again. Take a sip of coffee. We were talking about what is violence, and looking at where I stepped up, but I guess I got to aggression. Yeah, I talked about that. What is violence is what we're talking about. And we have our definition of aggression. At its base, violence is a form of aggression. Okay? Not all aggression is violence, but all violence is aggression. Okay? And aggression, as you can see, comes from the Latin aggredior, which is it's a deponent verb, so it takes a passive form, but it has an active meaning. Aggredior, so to go up to or approach, especially in a hostile manner, excuse me. So someone comes up to you and they're like loaded to bear, as the expression goes. They're already aggressive or showing hostility towards you. They want to do something negative to you. Can also mean confrontation, to stir something up, stirring things up. But it also has the meaning of attacking or assaulting. Okay, so aggression is any forceful action or practice. That probably should have just said action. Any forceful action that's intended to dominate or master another person or thing. Okay? So you want to, the assertion of dominance is another way of putting aggression. Okay? I want to show you that I am in charge. All right? Note that actual physical bodily harm or destruction is not part of the definition of aggression. Okay, um, because you may not, it may not end up in violence or physical harm. Okay, if you blow something up and nobody gets hurt, that still can be seen as an act of aggression, even though there was no physical harm to any person. But not all aggression, as I said, is violence then, but all violence is aggression. It's based in this intention, the intended act of exerting force in order to master or dominate another. Psychological literature recognizes two forms of aggression: instrumental and hostile. Instrumental is what you might think, an instrument, a tool. Okay? So, for example, in instrumental aggression, aggression is being used as a means to an end. So just a means to an end, which is dominance or mastery. So you might also call that simple aggression, I guess. But it's the means to the end. So the example I gave in class was like a police officer carrying a gun. Okay? It's something that the police officer can use, but he doesn't have to use. Okay? Police officers are trained, I believe, because my cousin, well, she's not a police officer anymore. She just retired a few months ago, or maybe, yeah, just several months ago. But if I asked her, I think she'd verify this, that police officers are trained to de escalate, not escalate. Okay? You don't want it to get to the point where you do have to draw a weapon. Because, I mean, cops are human beings too. They don't want to kill somebody if they don't have to. They don't want to fear for their lives and have to kill somebody. So I hope. you know. So it's an instrument, it's a tool that they're using. Let me get this out. My external hard drive connects and disconnects sometimes. Um, but hostile aggression is different. That's where the intent of aggression or is the end in itself to inflict harm. It's not just something that is a means to an end. It's a tool that might be intended to inflict harm, it is in fact intended to inflict harm. And I use the example, whoops, let's go back here. I use the example of a serial killer and his weapons, you know, a serial killer carrying a knife or something, or carrying a gun, you know, or carrying a rope to strangle somebody. I mean, you know, a rope is just a rope, a ligature is just a ligature. But when it's being carried by someone who wants to go out and kill, you know, kidnap people and kill people, that's not just instrumental aggression. It's not an instrument anymore. It actually is the end in itself. He wants to use it specifically to inflict harm. So it's hostile aggression. Essential to the idea of aggression. Hold on, my cat. We got a kitten recently, and she's all over the place. You might see her. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get her. Come here, you. Come here, you. Nah, she's running away. All right, maybe she'll come over later and I'll show her to you. Anyways, what's essential to aggression is the idea of force. That force is being used, so it's a forceful action. It's not just any kind of action. And force, a forceful force, is simply strength or energy that is brought to bear on something. Okay, that's what a force is. It comes from the Latin word fortis, which means to be strong or powerful, vigorous, but essentially strong or powerful. Strength, okay, yeah, kind of strength. That's why I included it in the definition. And force can be used more generally for violence exerted upon or against a person or a thing. The use of force, okay? Not all use of force is violent, okay? When I'm trying to open up a jar whose lid is stuck, I have to use my strength or energy, and I bring it to bear on the top of the jar to loosen the lid, okay? I'm using force, but it's not violent. You know, no one would come up to me and say, well, why are you attacking? Why are you assaulting the jar of pickles? You know, something like that. People know you're exerting force to get it open. But in the case of violence, I'm exerting force against a person or a thing. Well, now my phone's going off. Break. Yeah. I gotta take the cat to the veterinarian. Hold on a second. Put this on vibrate so we get interrupted again. So more generally, it can be used for violence exerted upon a person or a thing, though the use of violence or the possibility of using violence can be implied by force. So we talk about the police force. We don't call them the police service or ministry or, I don't know, what else could you call it? Company or whatever. We specifically there in the expression. We call them the police, well, department, I guess you could say, takes away that idea of force. But we talk about the police force, the military forces attacking, okay? Where force is definitely, I think, being used in the sense of the exertion of violence, of harm or destruction. Violence can be seen mainly as a destructive force. Destructive in the sense that it deconstructs, it breaks apart, it seeks to harm or destroy the integrity or the wholeness or the completeness of another thing. As I said, deconstruct, to break apart something. All right, so it ruins its integrity. But not all force is necessarily destructive or violent. Like I gave the example of hitting a baseball. I mean, force is being used, okay? You could also say it's aggression because you're dominating the thing that you're hitting, unless you miss the ball, but you're in trying to. It's, I guess, instrumental aggression. Or maybe it is hostile aggression. Well, no, it's bad as a tool, I would say. Anyways, but it's not destructive. It's not violent. Okay, it's not meant to be. Because your intention is not violence. Your intention is not to cause destruction or harm to another person or thing. But then there's the example I gave of a pitcher, you know, beaning somebody with a ball after, you know, on the other team for some reason, you know, for some purpose. Well, that's not the purpose of putting the ball into play. You know, you're trying to throw it to the catcher so that you can get the player out, you know, get 3 strikes and get the player out. So you've changed now your intention. Your intention is exerting force in order not just for dominance, but dominance that's destructive. That's you're intending to cause harm, at least bruise the guy, you know? And sometimes things can go wrong, like pitchers can hit guys in the head. And, the pitcher might say afterwards, well, I didn't intend to do that, we're just going to ding him, I didn't want to end his career unless he did want to end his career. And then you've got maybe a serious problem. So, okay, violence or force is bound up, not all force is necessarily destructive, and it's bound up with the idea that the use of force is the exertion or the exercise of power or authority. Power. Okay, what is power? It's the ability to act or produce an effect. To be a cause, I guess, is another way to put this. Okay, you can produce an effect. I have power over you because I have the ability to produce effects in you as my students. There's a paper to be written next month that's due next month, and you have to do it. It's part of the grading elements. In fact, it's the only paper. If I had 2 or 3 papers, I guess you could ignore them and just do one. But since there's only one paper, it's one part of the grading element. You have to do it or you fail the course. Hint, hint. Okay, so it has to be done in some way, shape, or form. You have to submit something. So that's the effect, or also the discussion board, which comes up later in the month of November. Yeah, you're going to have to do it. I have that power. I can produce an effect. Okay, here she is, but you can't see her. Hold on a second here. Come here, you. Ah, come here, you. Ah, don't use your claws. Little lady. There we go. And look, she comes out of the other world. There she is. There's our Lily, our little baby. She's a cutie. She's a little rascal, though. Okay, and she's all black. So now I have 2 all black kitty cats. I don't know how that happened. I always wanted a black kitty cat, and then we got one, and now we have this other one. Anyways, perfect for Halloween. Anywho, so power to make an effect. Power comes from our old friend, Anglo-French. Remember the French about 1,000 years ago invaded England and took over. And so for a period of time, the upper crust of England were speaking both English and French. So a lot of French Latinate words poured into the English language. And so we have what's called Anglo-French. Power. I say power, power. From the Latin word potere, posse, to be able to, can. I can do something, okay? Possum, I can, okay? The ability, I'm able to do something, all right? So that's power, the ability to do something. One has, basically, power means you have the right of control or authority over another or to influence another. So, I have power over you as the instructor of the course, okay? Because I signed a contract with Gwynedd Mercy University, giving me that power. If I just walked in off the street, I could still teach the course, but I would have no power. I mean, if you didn't want to do the stuff I wanted you to do, what would I do to you? The university wouldn't recognize my power. Your parents have power over you. They have the ability to cause effects in your life, to influence you, for good or for bad. Okay, hopefully for good. But it's the right of control. And it may include a physical bodily aspect, but not necessarily. Okay, someone may, like if you're in the military, they have power over your body. They can move you around. They can say, okay, you're stationed here in Pennsylvania, but maybe you're even in the Pennsylvania National Guard. You're not even in like the federal armed forces. You're in the state armed forces, the National Guard. But President Trump has issued an order, and we're all going to go, I don't know, to Venezuela to take down Maduro. So, so, no more wars, President Trump. I thought that's what you said. No more wars. America first. Anyways, but yeah, you have to go. You have to move your body. I mean, you don't have to go, but they'll throw you in prison. It's breaking your oath, and I'm sure that's a crime according to the military code of justice, I would imagine. So it may include a physical aspect of power, where I can physically move you, or a jail where the guards tell you what to do, when to do it, where to go, okay? So they can physically control you. But it can also be mental aspect, psychological power. Like, I don't have physical power over you. I can't force you to write your paper, but so I don't really guess I have the physical ability, okay? But I have I guess mental or psychological ability, in the sense that, I can harm your grade, which, I don't know, harms your self-esteem or whatever, I guess. It could turn into physical power if maybe you got expelled if you failed enough of your courses. I don't know. But anyways, now I want to talk about the difference between the ability to exercise power and the authority. This is a distinction. Well, before I go on to that, oh no, this is a distinction that was made by a philosopher named Hannah Arendt. I believe she died in America. I should have put this in my notes, but I have here that she was born in the Prussian kingdom, the Prussian Empire, which, as I told you, included at the time Poland and a whole bunch of Germany. Was part of what's called the Prussian with a P Empire. And she was born there, but I think she emigrated to us, to the United States, and died here. But anyways, she died in 1975. But she was a philosopher, and most of her philosophy apparently was on politics, because she's known as a political philosopher. And I was reading. I don't think I gave this reading to you, but as part of my research, I was reading from the Blackwell Companion to Religion and Violence, and I was reading an article by John D. Carlson called Religion and Violence, Coming to Terms with Terms. Okay, what do we mean? Actually, I might have given this as a, well, I think I might have given it before as a reading, but I don't think I gave it for this class. Anyways, in the context of that article, he brings up the ideas of Hannah Arendt in her book on violence. Okay, so she devoted a whole essay to it, talking about this distinction between ability, potentia, okay, potere, to be able, and authority, which is potestas, which also comes from the same root, potere, to be able. Okay? We can have, I guess, to boil it down or make it simple, her argument is, we can have the ability to do something. We all have the ability to exercise force or power. But I should probably just say power, because I don't want to confuse the two. We all have the ability to exercise power if we so choose. But I guess you could say, can we exercise power? Is our exercise legitimate? Are we able to be able, in a manner of speaking? That's the difference between potentia and potestas. Potentia is ability, simply put. Potestas is I am able to be able. Okay? I have some authority, some other power which legitimates me in exercising it. So for something to be truly power, it must be legitimate in Arendt's thinking. Okay? Someone has power or authority to do what he or she is doing to others. That's potestas. I have true ability, okay? Because I have the legitimate authority to do it to others. Oh, I didn't notice that in the picture that she's holding a cigarette. All right, I'll have to edit that out. Maybe you like smoking cigarettes, but it kind of sends a bad message, I guess. It's unhealthy. Sorry about that. I didn't notice that before. Otherwise, someone is just using force because you can. That's potentia, the ability. I'm just doing it because I can do it. Potentia. I can do it because I'm allowed to do it. That's potestas. Okay? And this is a bad example, actually. Well, okay. I'll change the example in my head. I can go up and scream at a kid or yell at a kid. Okay? I have that ability, potentia. But it means something more. Someone might say, well, why are you screaming at this kid? What are you, an adult's, going off on the kids? Someone might be even concerned about that. Call the cops. Someone's going after the kids, screaming at them. But if the kids are my children and I'm their parent, now I have potestas. I just don't have potentia. I have not just the ability, I have the authority, the legitimate ability to scream at my kid. Okay? And people are like, oh, someone might be like, well, why is he going off on the kid? And someone might say, well, that's his kid, you know? Oh, okay. So maybe something's wrong or the kid's doing something wrong. You don't know. But you don't know. I mean, the parent could be a jerk and just be screaming at his kids for no reason. Okay. It could be bad rather than constructive, like not saying, don't go out into the street, screaming at the kid to stay out of the street, or screaming at the kid because he struck out at the plate in a baseball game, and he displeased you. Nevertheless, if I did it, if the kid struck out and I'm screaming at someone else's kid, I certainly have that potentia. I have that ability, that power. It's not really legitimate. And so, like, if the kid's parent hurt me, the kid's parent might come up to me and get in my face and be like, why are you screaming at my kid? Well, why can't I? I have the ability. I have the potentia, but I don't have the potestas. So an example, mere ability is arbitrary. Okay, potentia is simply arbitrary. It has no boundary. So, for example, the difference between mob rule or a coup d'état is another example I gave. The military decides on its own to overthrow the legitimately elected leaders, a coup, the overthrow of the state. However, authority to use force is not arbitrary. It has legitimacy. It has boundaries for its rightful use. So, overthrowing a government, you can do that, and our country has done that at times. But then you have a declaration of war. So you have two examples that come into my mind. First was our invasion of Iraq, the country of Iraq, the second invasion, I should say, under President George W. Bush, which was completely illegitimate in my view. And not because I'm anti-Republican or anti-whatever. I hate our country. We invaded a country on our own authority just because we wanted to. The president said he wanted to. And so Congress just went along with it. We had that ability. So that was an arbitrary use. And then because we said we were going to do it, or our president said, if Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq, doesn't leave, we're going to invade. And then we found reasons to do it. But the original reason was just that our president didn't like Saddam Hussein, the dictator of Iraq. He wanted to get him out. And then we came up with reasons to do it. That's arbitrary. That's different from the early 1990s, when we first invaded Iraq. Who haven't we invaded? When we first invaded Iraq, that was under George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, who succeeded President Reagan. And we invaded Iraq there because of Iraq invaded a small country below it called Kuwait, this country called Kuwait, for whatever reason. I don't remember, oil, or, maybe it was for oil, maybe it was for something. I don't know. Wanted the oil that Kuwait had. I don't know. I think that was the reason back then. I'm trying to remember. But nevertheless, that was an arbitrary action. He just took the country because he wanted to. He violated its sovereignty. So Saddam's action was arbitrary, invading and overthrowing the legitimate government of, well, I don't know if it's the Kingdom of Kuwait or Sultanate of Kuwait. I don't think it's a democracy, or it was at the time. I think it was a kingdom. Anyways, so we invaded Iraq. We started a war. We declared war on Iraq, and it was basically a UN operation. It wasn't just only us. It was mostly us, but it was a whole coalition of countries from the United, and they kind of pegged it as a UN operation not so much the United States at war with Iraq, but it was us. It was us. Anyways, so I'm not going to get into the rest of the history of that, the Persian Gulf War, as it's called. Anyways, but that was legitimate because there was a declaration of war. There were boundaries. There was a rightful use of force or power in that instance to restore the legitimate government of Kuwait and push out the Iraqis. So legitimacy for Arendt is the crucial element. And from an article on violence that I got from the Dictionary of Anthropology, this is written by a man named Joel Wallman. He identifies that idea of legitimacy as what's crucial, okay? Because he's talking about the work of another anthropologist called David Ritchie's, that one constant across all definitions is that the act of violence is illegitimate. The illegitimate use of physical force used when it's simply arbitrary. Okay, legitimacy. Well, anyways, I'm babbling here. Let me go back and redo that. Legitimacy determines whether the violence is, I guess, good or bad. All right. Violence is not always a disbenefit if it's legitimate. But so all cultures seem to agree, according to this anthropologist, that what the constant in all definitions is that an action of violence is a violent. What makes it violent is that it's illegitimate. The physical force that's being used is illegitimate. Okay. Now we come to the debate. We get to our friend Mr. Lawrence. Is nature or nurture? Does aggression come from innate aspects of our human personality, or does aggression arise from socially induced causes? Okay, so those are the two main questions, which is basically nature and nurture. Is it in our genes, in our biology to be violent? Okay, is it part of our evolution? Or is it something functional, environmental, something that we're taught from our parents or taught from our society? Of course, if you want to hedge your bets, you can say, well, it's kind of both, and it probably is. I mean, because we are those types of beings. We are organic beings, material beings that have genes and DNA and all sorts of stuff. We have a code in our body that determines aspects of us. But we also have a social element outside of us, our peer groups, our family, etc., that tell us to do things or not do things, which we that decide to accept or not accept. That seems to me logical that it would be both. Sometimes they're out of balance, I guess. If someone has a mental illness and they have no impulse control, they're always punching, and hitting people. Well, that's where I would say that the nature is kind of out of balance with the nurture. The aggression is there's something out of balance there in the person's mental capacity, psychology, biology. But if someone is taught that if someone gets in your face, you break their neck, punch them in the face or something, okay, that doesn't necessarily come naturally to them. They're just otherwise a normal they're psychologically normal. But dad always told me, someone does something to you, you punch them out. That's nurture. And if someone does it all the time, it becomes very always involved in bar fights or something like that, fights and always aggressive, competitive. I'm competitive, is what people sometimes say when they're in sports. Try and play a nice ping pong game with somebody, and the person, is slamming the ball at you. And if the person playing chess with somebody, and they lose and they smash the board, well, that's where nurture. My dad always taught me you got to play to win. Or my mom. I don't want to make it seem like it's all dad's fault. Yeah, that's where the nurture element might be out of whack. That might be an imbalance there. Okay, so now we're going to talk first about the biological bases of aggression. And so I'm starting with Konrad Lorenz. Just trying to see how far I got into Lawrence. Okay. 1903 to 1989. And he was Austrian. He was a zoologist, so he studied animals, but zoe in Greek means just life. So does bios. So what's the difference between biology and zoology? Well, zoe has the sense more of a living thing, whereas bios is more life itself. Any living thing, I guess, any living organism. But a zoe is more like an animal, I think, if I remember correctly. So he was a zoologist who was especially interested in studying geese. Geese. I forget what he studied about geese, but it's here in my notes. He eventually joined the Nazis, the National Socialist Workers' Party, otherwise known as the Nazis, that took over the government of Germany, but eventually tried to expand or did expand into other countries, one of them being Austria. The Nazis invaded Austria, Germany invaded Austria, and overthrew the government and installed a Nazi sympathetic government. And apparently Lawrence was sympathetic because he joined them and even served in the military as a psychologist with them. He was taken as a prisoner of war by the Soviets, the Russians. He got captured by the Russians, was put into a prisoner of war camp until the end of the war, after which he was released and then spent the rest of his life in Austria. He is considered a pioneer of ethology. 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 Ethos in Greek simply means ethos, simply means a norm, a custom, a habit. But it's been taken to mean the study of the biological aspects of behavior, the study of the biological bases of behavior, ethology. I don't know if you even call it that anymore, but, because in psychology, for example, you usually have to take a class called the biological bases of psychology or of behavior or something like that. They don't call it ethology. Nevertheless, that's its name. Lawrence thought that aggression was a basic biological drive. We talked about drives when we talked about Freud. Freud identified 3 or 4 basic drives. I always forget what the fourth one is. But, the first drive is the sexual drive, the drive to reproduce. The other drive is our drive to stay alive, to eat, to feed ourselves. The drive to avoid death was one he added later on. There's another one in there that I can't remember what it might have been. But anyways, Lawrence added violence, or aggression, I should say, as one of our drives. Aggression is genetically ordained. It's a genetically ordained compulsion that is within us that is triggered by external stimuli. So, like other animals, we are aggressive by nature. I guess there could be a good argument for that. If you've ever, shown you my kitty before, she's loving and nice. She's a sweetie. But if I do something that she doesn't like, the claws come out or the biting starts. And she's not so bad because she is such a sweetie. But I have another cat, I told you, another black cat, who is also, she's a beautiful girl. She's a sweet girl, but she doesn't play. She fights. Okay? And she also doesn't like to be petted too much. It overstimulates her. So she starts biting. She gets too excited and starts biting. Or she just gets mad and she paps you with her big paw. So how do I explain that? I mean, I haven't taught that to her. I'm nice to her. I'm nothing but nice to my cats. I tell people all of our cats, my family's cats, die old and happy. We love cats. I've had cats almost my whole life. Tried a dog once, but that didn't work out. My dad didn't want one, so okay, because they're a lot of work. Cats kind of take care of themselves. But I love dogs too. But I've had cats most of my life. But yeah, I mean, there are some cats that are really nice and placid and sweet, and there are some that are really nasty and aggressive. Well, they didn't learn that. Who taught them that? I mean, I'm assuming it's coming from their DNA, their genetics, their biology, that they're aggressive by nature. Most animals seem to be aggressive by nature, and with certain stimuli. A bear might be kind of friendly or even afraid of you. Usually, bears are kind of fearful animals. Okay, they're very powerful and dangerous, but they're fearful animals. So if they hear movement, human beings moving around in the forest, usually you don't see the bear because the bear's gone. The bear's hightailed it because it heard you and it doesn't want to encounter you. It's afraid of you, apparently. However, if you come upon a bear, a mama bear with her babies, she ain't afraid of you no more. Or if she's afraid of you, she can't be afraid of you. She becomes aggressive. Or if you come upon a bear and food, that's another thing. The bear has found food and then you show up. All right. Same thing with like a snake. A snake doesn't typically go around biting people or biting things. It bites when it wants to kill something or disable something to eat it. But, it can't eat a human being. We can't fit in their mouths. So why would they even go after us? But usually someone gets bitten because, you're out hiking and you turn over a log or you step somewhere and, whatever, and you spook the snake. And the snake reacts aggressively. It doesn't always secrete or inject poison. I didn't know that before, but I watching all the animal shows. Found that out actually. So you can get a snake bite and actually survive it if the snake doesn't feel so threatened that it feels like it needs to inject poison. But if it does, then you're a goner unless you get some help. So you can get bitten and just be bitten, but that's aggression. Why is it aggressive? So I'm not. I think Lawrence may have something here because we are animals too. But anyways, he said we were aggressive by nature, and because we are aggressive by nature, and it's a drive within us, just like the other drives that we have for reproduction, for food, it requires periodic satisfaction. It needs to be satisfied every now and then, so that's perfectly natural. Maybe there's a point to that. Have you ever heard someone, talk like, I feel like I need to hit somebody. I haven't hit somebody in a while. you know. And one of the arguments for war about the cause of warfare, why are there so many wars? I heard this recently. Where did I hear this? But one of the arguments is that a lot of warfare is caused simply by boredom. Nothing's going on. People want to stir things up. Aggredior, right? Aggredior. They want to stir things up. Nothing's going on. They're bored. We've got all these bombs and guns and soldiers. Got to use them for something. Our drive needs to be satisfied. Okay. And, this was an influential idea. I mean, some people thought that it was healthy to vent aggression because it would prevent psychological implosion. You're collapsing in on yourself. Maybe you've heard this before from people. It's kind of like pop psychology. You got to, come on, Maddie, you just got to let it out. You can't hold it in because you'll explode. Well, or implode, It's not good for you to hold it in. It's healthier to vent your aggression. Otherwise, you might scapegoat other people. Either you'll explode or implode psychologically from the weight of suppressed aggression, or your viciousness might be misdirected to scapegoats. Blame the Arabs, blame the Jews, blame people with a certain skin color. And so now we lash out at them because, I'm so angry about what's going on every day in my society, but I want to lash out. Well, anyways, This is discussed in, I got this information from an article on aggression by Max Stackhouse and the Westminster Dictionary of Christian Ethics. And according to Professor Stackhouse or Dr. Stackhouse, this view of Conrad has been basically laid to rest. Okay, kind of like I talked when we talked about Freud. Okay, there's connections here with Freud. You know, Freud has been his ideas have been kind of laid to rest. There's really no proof for them as there's a theory, but okay, it's a theory people talk about. Same thing with Lawrence. They've been kind of been laid to rest. All right, well, all right. Why have they been laid to rest? Well, contemporary evidence shows, this is also according to Stackhouse, contemporary evidence, so when these ideas have been actually been tested, that therapeutic legitimations of aggression, during therapy, and I talked about primal scream therapy, let it out, let's scream, let your rage out, or letting people, I remember I saw the maybe I should put this on the PowerPoint. It's from an old episode of the show Frasier, classic, where Frasier is a psychiatrist and he's treating a woman who is afraid of clowns. Okay. Oh no, it's not. No, that's not it. His brother. Oh, that's right. He hates his brother. His brother, I can't go into the whole story, it's too long, but his brother Niles is being a pest and is driving Frasier crazy, but he's afraid to yell at his brother. He's afraid to confront his brother, so he has to redirect his aggression. So he gets an inflatable clown and he beats it up and punches it. You know, he directs. He's used. It's a therapeutic legitimation of his aggression. Okay, and that used to be the rage amongst pop psychologists and other counselors maybe years ago. That get your aggression out, so they'd give you a doll or something that you could hit or destroy or whatever, and that somehow would, it's a legitimate way of directing your aggression to someone else. Okay. But apparently studies of these therapeutic legitimations showed that these only tended to increase the probability of subsequent violence. So letting it out did not dissipate the violence. It actually, by therapeutically legitimating the violence, other experiments were showing that it just legitimated violence in the mind of the person, whether they knew it or not. So the next time they were in a situation where they wanted to be aggressive, or they were stimulated to be aggressive, that's what they were used to. Let it out. I gotta be authentic. That's the whole big thing with our culture in the past 20 or 30 years, even maybe since the 60s. I gotta be me, be who I am, La cage aux faux, I am what I am, I gotta be me, all that stuff. Okay, fine, be you. You be you, Is anyone still using that phrase? But that was the big phrase 5 years ago. You be you, dude. Dudette. You be you, girl. Yeah, you has to be you. You have to be authentic. So, you tell people like it is. You get in their face. You don't back down. Whereas it used to be, it was kind of going the way of the dodo when I was, a dodo is an extinct bird. When I was a kid, I was born in 1972. But ask your grandparents, or even your great-grandparents, if you have great-grandparents. But, whatever you might have done privately, you did not do publicly. So, if someone treated you badly in public, I'm not saying that people still didn't get into fights or whatever. I mean, there's still reality. People are people. But the accepted norm was that a civilized person, common people would get into fights, but a civilized person would not get into a fight or harm another person or say something against the other person. just get revenge or something like that. That was just the way things were supposed to be. Because why? Well, didn't mean you weren't angry, or you didn't hate the person, or you didn't want to kick the person in the pants. But for society to work, for all of us to be able to live together, you had to kind of accept the jerks. You couldn't go around shooting people. You couldn't go around beating people up. Okay? Or rioting. You weren't supposed to. I'm not saying it never happened, but certainly in polite society, as they called it polite society because you were supposed to be polite, no matter whether you liked the person or you didn't like the person. That's kind of like the oil that greased the joints, in a manner of speaking, how people could live and exist together. Well, I'm not going to be in the same room as him, Well, I'm not going to talk to her, Whatever. Okay, fine. But it's like Mean Girl, the movie Mean Girls, all the time. It's like, your high school with you got the mean kids, the kids that think they're cool and they're above everybody, and they look down on everybody else. But now that's what it is all the time in society. It's the Mean Girls movie. Whereas before it was like Sense and Sensibility, where, okay, yeah, sometimes a person needs a smack in the face, and people did do that if someone did something really insulting or shameful. But normally when you were in public space, you were supposed to be in control. You didn't say what you thought. Or if you said it in a polite way. Okay? You still said what you thought, but you said it in a polite way. Now, maybe you weren't, I don't know, your generation, my generation wouldn't like to live like that anymore. I mean, I'm from New Jersey. I like to speak my mind. Okay? I'm a jerk. I know that. And I think the world needs jerks sometimes. It needs prophets. But, there are a lot of ways in which when I'm writing emails to students and stuff, I might want to say X, but I know I can't say it that way. I have to say it in a respectful, polite way to my student, where I'm still saying the same thing, like, hey, you're going to fail the course, but I'm trying to make them see that, look, I sympathize, but these are consequences, whatever. All right. Anyway, so therapeutic I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe being too authentic is like therapeutic legitimations of aggression. It makes us more probable to be aggressive. All right. Lawrence thought that humans were more prone to aggression because culture releases us from nature's harmonies. He thought that, our aggression was released naturally. So probably, I guess he means like through things like hunting, occasional warfare, sports, athletics. These were ways that just naturally released aggression, or there were ways where we could legitimately release our aggression through our cultures. And that was, I guess, more harmonious with nature. It was more natural, although war is not generally natural. Not something natural. However, whatever. And as, I started getting into, his views are very influential, but I'll talk about that. I talked about that in the next class. So I talked about that already, and it's on the video. So I'll stop here. God bless you all. I will see you again next week. Have a good weekend. I'll have to add a little bit to the video. That's my project. Well, no one's watching them anyways. I see them on YouTube. It's like 2 views, and I know the 2 views are me. So it's like, why am I doing this? But yeah, so he blames each group for, I don't know what he blames the Jews for. I think wars, all the Middle East and stuff, the wars we get into. Of course, he blames blacks for crime. Blames liberated women for maybe you just can't get dates. It's a difficult, I don't know. But scapegoat. I'm angry. I'm feeling rage, aggression. What do I do with it? I got to transfer it to somebody else. Who's the problem? That's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who are like, it's the white nationalists who are the problem. People who vote for certain political parties or believe certain ideas about certain things. They're the ones who are the problem. That's why society sucks. So we got to go out. We got to get the clubs and the fireworks and let them know we're not going to put up with this. They're our scapegoats. So scapegoating, transferal. We transfer the aggression. All right. Say Stackhouse here. All right, Max Stackhouse. One of the things I consulted, the Westminster Dictionary of Christian Ethics. I looked at the article on aggression, and it talks about Conrad in there. Stackhouse says, I'm assuming he knows better than I do, says that, these views of Lawrence are really been, quote, laid to rest. No one really follows them anymore. According to contemporary evidence, okay, good, so they're testing his ideas. These are his theories, so let's test them. When they've been tested, it suggests that therapeutic legitimations of aggression, like letting people act out their violence, supposedly in a safe space, actually, apparently, according to these studies, does not tend to decrease a person's aggression or proneness to violence. Actually, it tends to increase the probability of person creating more, committing more violence, actually. So maybe you shouldn't turn the old kind of advice from like your friends or your mom or your dad, which was like, just forget about it and move on. Oh, you mean just bury it, Dad? Just let it go, Maybe there's some wisdom to that, to internalize it, bury it and it'll go. Maybe it does kind of go away or dissipate, or maybe it's just still there, but you can then deal with it and rationalize with it and think about it. Why am I angry over this? Why was this wrong what this person did to me? Or maybe think why things suck rather than just lashing out at it must be them or it must be those people. Yeah. You start to think about it like, why do I have to hate this certain group of people? Maybe I do disagree with them, right? Maybe I do. I might have disagreements like with a group of people or a person or something like that. Do I have to hate him or her? Do I have to? I could, I guess, but now I feel like I'm being told that I have to hate certain people. So maybe those primal scream things were not good, or the rage rooms was good. Maybe those are not good. God bless you, sir. I appreciate it. See you next week. Oh, before I forget, remember we don't have class on Tuesday. It's the fall break. Yeah. And also remember we have a quiz tomorrow. Quiz number 2 starts tomorrow, yes? Friday. So quiz number 2. Sorry about that. Forgot to mention. So quiz number 2. Welcome, Mr. Henry. Feel better. Quiz number 2 starts tomorrow. And no class on Tuesday.
What is the second quiz do?
What does the syllabus say? Then what will my response be?
Check the syllabus.
Check the syllabus. It's all there.
It's the next Friday, correct? Is that what you do?
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is that what the syllabus says?
Well, that is.
If that's what the syllabus says, then that is correct. Yeah, that would be correct if the syllabus says that, Ms. Glenn. But I would still say check the syllabus to make sure it's correct.
Wait, so did anyone?
It is?
Yes.
You do?
The 17th of October.
Yes. Where was I? Oh, so rage rooms. Yeah, maybe a rage room sounds like a good idea. But I guess that could kind of make sense if I think about it. what Stackhouse is saying, that, you know, when people have actually tested these kinds of views, I guess it could make sense, because if you, unleash the beast, remember, anyone ever see The Purge? Mr. So-and-so, if you don't release that person to us, we'll come into your house and unleash the beast. I used that in one of my, did I use it in religion and violence? I don't remember if I did or not. I have to pull that out. Anyways, unleash the beast, yeah? Maybe if you do that, that's the whole purpose of the movie, you've got 24 hours to unleash the violence that you want to inflict on, I guess, yourself or usually other people, it seems, in the movie. And you won't be accused of a crime, you won't be arrested or whatever. Everything, murder, everything is allowable for that 24-hour period. And supposedly the reason is this idea that if you do that in the movie, yes, then the crime rate will go down for the rest of the year, because everyone's, released all their anger and their aggression to anyone that has pissed them off during the year. So they've made their plans for Purge Day to kill that person. And if you've seen the movie, you see people at the beginning, sharpening the machete, and they already know who they're going for, probably. It's like, this machete is for you, John. That's okay, Bob. I've got my flamethrower. Got your name on it. But apparently experiments have shown that no, that actually makes people more violent. It unleashes the beast in a way. And once the beast is out, how do you contain it? Now, maybe some people can get a flavor for violence. Because we're not supposed to like violence, right? Aren't we? We're not supposed to? Are we? Are we supposed to like violence? What do you think, Ms. Rogers?
I mean, we like horror movies, right? Around Halloween.
Yeah.
So we can like some violence, but not like legitimate violence.
Legitimate violence. What's the difference?
The difference is one is real and one is not. One's on like the movies, that's like fake blood.
Yeah.
So, like we can like that type of violence, but like actual violence for like for watching somebody get murdered. I don't think it's.
Well, also even with the movies, if you're dealing with method actors, then all bets are off. If the script says punch him in the face, then you actually do punch him in the face if you're a method. So that's okay. It's not necessarily always fake violence in the movies, depending on how willing people are willing to go. But I get your point. Yeah. But other stuff. But real aggression? We're not supposed to like real aggression? Real violence?
I don't think so.
You really?
I mean, maybe to certain people, like pedophiles and whatnot, you can like violence for them.
Okay. Nasty stuff to them?
Yeah.
People, like, maybe if you put a show on television, like, I don't know, let's shoot the pedophile with a, cow prod, with a pain stick, yeah? Hey! No. Mercy with a pedophile? Leslie. Are we going to watch the game tonight? Are the Eagles playing the Giants tonight? Oh, the Phillies? Yeah, that's right. The Phillies are playing, right? They're in the playoffs, right? Baseball isn't really that much of a violent game. I mean, you are hitting a ball. You do have bats. They do have bats, but they're not there to hit people, right?
Well, some cases.
Well,
What's the situation? Because there is violence in baseball.
yeah, but it's not really part of the game, right? It's not built into the game, the structure of the game. Although hitting the ball is violent. I mean, you are hitting a ball. It's hard to game.
That's something.
And a guy is throwing a ball at somebody in the person's direction, right? And I think we already went over this, Mr. Lynch, that of course, you never hit a person with the ball. No, not intentionally. But if you did, guy got a home run off of you, wouldn't you be expected to do that? Isn't there like an unspoken rule? I don't know, I'm not a baseball player, but I thought in the pros, like an unspoken rule that, if a guy got a home run off of somebody or just did something, but certainly a home run, that you ding the next guy who comes up. Isn't that an unspoken rule? Huh?
Not really.
Not really? Not in the pros even? So why do they do it? What?
I don't know.
Alright, it's a possibility for fun, makes them feel good.
We're going to see intentional books. It's like, it won't be after a home, it's 10 years of a home.
Huh?
There'll be different reasons of it, but it won't be like moving of a home.
Okay, what kind of reasons?
Kind of what you get back when the opposing team pitcher hits one of your best hitters in a certain situation, or vice versa, then team loyalty like takes over, and then you get paid back for the. It's kind of like goes back and forth.
Okay. So I mean, it's not in the rule book, but it's kind of understood that that's what you would have to do as a pitcher,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
And what if one of your pitchers wouldn't do that? Then the Bible says, I'm a Muslim, I'm a man of peace, I'm not going to hit somebody intentionally with the ball. Simple as that. So violence is, even in baseball, is there. Right?
To an extent.
To an extent.
Not intentional violence unless it's
Intended.
right.
That's what we call a tautology. So we are supposed to like violence, Mr. Cliff.
Mhm.
Right? Are we?
To an extent.
All right. I mean, because if I'm a fan and you're not a pitcher, are you a pitcher? Yeah. If I'm watching you and I'm a fan and you're not, they hit one of our guys and you're up there and you're not going to do nothing, I'm expecting you, right? Even a fan. Huh?
If I got the orders to that, I probably would, yeah.
Would anyone have to tell you to do it?
I mean, it all depends. Like, it really all depends. It's like, if you're like in a close knit house, so not that. But like, if it's like early in the set the tone,
Why wouldn't you do it in a close game?
because then you get to watch the game, which you really so wished.
Okay. Oh, so that's, okay, so you want to do that.
All right.
All right, interesting. Is anyone going to watch the football game, or is everyone watching? You're going to watch a football? You're going to watch both? I think football is a little bit easier example, right? Yeah. Wow, did you hear that? You heard it all the way up here. Although if some guy gets a head injury or something, then it's like, oh, hold on a second. We want violence, but we don't want it to be that bad. Did you hear that, Nick? Oh, wait a second. He's really hurt. Oh, stop the game. I don't know. The NFL to me is schizophrenic. I don't get it. Well, our whole American culture is schizophrenic. We love to see like two men or two women in the octagon smashing knees into the other one's head. But in a football game, it's like we put like now these big little fuzzy foam things on top of guys' heads if they've had concussions. But we're like, football players get hurt. I don't want my kid playing football. But mixed martial arts, yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand the difference. But then again, mixed martial arts. Are we supposed to like aggression? Huh? You do? Why? What's fun about it?
You got to build up to the fight, then they get upset at each other, then they get in the octagon and they just start going at it.
Try to like break each other's arms and stuff.
Basically.
Choke each other out. That can kill somebody though, can it? If you choke somebody
Yeah,
unconscious?
that's what I read here. Yeah.
To do what?
If somebody can save somebody in a rear naked choke, somebody in a rear naked choke for too long, and they not tapping or they not moving, once they go limp, the ref stops it.
Why doesn't the other fighter stop him?
Because he don't know.
He doesn't know that he's choking a person to death?
He probably does, but he's not stopping until the ref stops.
Why?
That's what he wants to learn.
Winning includes possibly killing your opponent?
Eventually.
Really? That's kind of a different kind of sport to me. That's kind of getting back to gladiator days.
Lawful action if they actually do kill somebody up.
Depends. If the ref does something stupid, like he doesn't stop the fight, he's just sitting there looking at it from that long. I don't think so. But if the ref's trying to stop the fight, he keeps on holding, that guy's here.
But why is it the ref's job to tell you, don't go far enough? I mean, fight, but don't go far enough where you're going to kill the person.
If the ref wasn't there, say for example, the last weekend, the fights that just happened. If Alex Pereira was on top of Magomedov, he was hitting him with hammering. So that whole time, if the ref wasn't there, Alex Pereira would have kept going. So I feel like it's smart. But the ref was there after 10 unresponsive hits. He called it a fight.
What if he didn't call the fight? What if he let it go? Huh?
He would have probably had some bad injuries.
Would you have been okay with that?
I don't know, man. I don't
You
think
don't know. Okay, you're honest. Would you if you're watching it?
Depends on who my dad's on. Personally, if we're being honest.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. But I just want to say, because the question is, are we supposed to like aggression?
Well, I think if you're a pro UFC fighter, when they're doing all their talks and stuff before, most of the time they verbalize that they actually want to kill others. I think you have to be some sort of screws loose in your head.
For UFC to do that?
Yes.
Okay, but then why are people allowed to pay money for that?
Because it's entertaining.
It's entertaining to see someone try and kill somebody else, possibly.
I mean, yeah, back in the day, you just had gladiators, it's always been entertaining.
Yeah, but we don't do gladiators anymore,
Yeah,
do
we
we?
do the UFC.
Should we do gladiators?
We got UFC now, we don't need
Interesting.
it.
As long as it's in the octagon, it's okay. Well, I don't know. Why can't you do it outside the octagon? Huh? Yeah.
It's not a controlled environment.
Really? It has to be controlled.
I doesn't say so.
Okay, so that makes a difference to you, that if it's just chaotic violence.
If you put that,
That's all right, keep going.
But if you took that concept of UFC and, for example, put it in the middle of campus here, people aren't just going to be police are going to be called, somebody's going to get arrested for assault,
Why?
some sort of battery charge.
Why?
Well, I think because it's a private university and it's it's a public setting.
It's a private, but it's a public setting?
It's a private university.
It's a private university, so it's not public, but I see what you're saying. It's public in the sense that it's out there where it's not
Right.
enclosed where people can't see it, It's not like in a tent or something, everyone's going to watch it. But so what? You do that with the UFC.
It's still a sport that these people have trained years in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu and stuff.
So, okay. All right. Oh, so what's the difference, though?
More controlled environment. They're saying the referees, they've been trained they're medically able to do stuff, and the trainers are right there. They take breaks for miles. So and kind of what you just said, those are legal moves. That's something you can do.
Legal move.
Illegal.
They're illegal moves?
Yeah.
Moves you can't do?
Yes.
Why?
Doesn't, and it's like not.
No, but why? Are they-
It's gonna sound like kind of ironic. It's not safe. I know the whole thing's not safe like that, but like, there's like certain moves that could be like lethal in a sense.
But we've already established that that doesn't really matter, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no.
What do you mean, yes or no?
Like minimizing. It's like with the NFL, they still get concussions sometimes. They still
They try to like
implement different protocols. So like,
more different protocols to.
they start putting some
True.
stuff. Like, they just told Aaron Rodgers he can't wear that helmet he was wearing for like his whole entire career because it's now all of a sudden it's a concussion.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, when someone spears someone with a helmet in the NFL, maybe they have the intent. Do you think they have the intent of killing the other person? But if someone's choking someone to death in the mixed martial art competition,
That's necessarily saying, oh, they want to the
they
fight.
want to win. But if the person won't tap out, the person, it's legit that if he can kill the guy.
Well, that, I mean,
That's like,
Go far enough.
that's like the person's decision. Like, they have a chance to tap out whenever they want, but they're pushing themselves past their limits.
All right.
They're making that.
Well, let's not even say death. If the person wants to break, if they've got the guy in a hold, or the woman has the other person in a hold where they're extending and they're gonna, if they pull far enough, they're gonna break. That's legitimate. So again, the question is, are we supposed to like aggression? So why does it, I don't know, but let's say you're watching a video and you're just on the news, you see it on the news or something, of some cop beating up some guy or kneeling on his neck. Doesn't want to kill him, but he needs to subdue him. It's not an intention to kill, but he might be restricting the guy's airflow a little bit. He's got a reason for doing it. He's not doing it for no reason. And he's trained for this moment to deal with a person who's being violent and resistant. He ends up killing the guy. To be expected? To be expected, it's going to happen. It's like in UFC. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Happens in boxing matches. The guy gets hit in the head so many times, and the brain explodes. And there are guys who died in boxing matches. To be expected, Mr. Boone? Yeah, I guess so. I guess you make the omelet, you gotta break a few eggs. No? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Not the answer I was generally expecting, but, okay, all right. So it seems like the answer to the question is, at least in our society, yes, aggression is something to value. Violence. Appreciate it. All right. Well, maybe sports is the outlet, right? Maybe sports is that kind of outlet. You get a violent kid and you say, okay, put him on the football team, or, get him into mixed martial art because he can, work out his aggression, right? This coach, Howerton and Sandu will work out the aggression, right? Right? You agree?
Well, as long as they keep it within, the regulation, that's appropriate for the.
Well, yeah. You can't let that go nuts over. If he's trying to, kill the guy, then you might have a problem. So, okay. Bobby can't do that anymore. He needs counseling. Yes, Mr. Son.
Marco is just someone with fingers and putting his short on how to hurt people, and I give him a mentally outlet for that.
What are you doing? Yeah. Well, what did I say about the experimentation? When they experimented with Lawrence and Hughes about allowing, a healthy outlet for aggression, it actually led the person to become more aggressive in other situations. So you put Bobby on the football team so he can knock some heads and he gets out his anger. then he's in the bar, you know, beating people up maybe, or that's all he knows about how to respond to things that make him feel aggression. That's his only thing he knows. Or she knows. I'm just laying it out there. Ideas and tested. And really, gentlemen, do you watch both forms? Do you watch the men and the women and stuff like that? Or are you just watching the guys?
For what?
For the UFC, mixed martial arts. Seem to know a lot about it. I'm assuming you're watching.
Pay for the pay-per-view.
They have all of them. They mix them up together, so it is really mixed martials. They mix them all.
89
Guys in the. What do you think about that?
What? Mm-hmm.
Well, it's usually guys in the crowd, isn't it?
Still around. Yeah, I grew up with all one of others, so I grew up watching UFC.
Okay. They were watching. You were watching, or you watched it.
My brother was like, they called me.
Okay.
I'd sit there and watch it. And they did like my kind of stuff, so I got like,
Okay. Yeah, interesting. What should we think about that, though? A bunch of guys watching women beat each other up.
Pay for it.
Should I pay for that?
There's a big fight this weekend. You like something?
I do not. What should I pay for that?
Wait.
Why you get it online?
Stream East. Stream East, you can watch it.
We mean that as K.
Yeah, well, you guys don't know, I mean, you guys are young, but I remember when UFC, it wasn't UFC then, but when it started to count, well, it really was basically bar brawling put into a cage. That's what it was.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, people thought so, didn't it?
First came out, it was
And when they-
that's where we. That's
Oh, yeah, it was it was, you put two guys who, you get guys from bars who like to beat people up, you put them in there. There was no training, they weren't, there was like, and then once they figured out people will pay money to see it, and it was all underground in the beginning. Because they thought it might be illegal, but once they figured out they're getting money off of it, then they started making rules. You can do this, you can do that. And then you had gyms, and it was training people how, okay, now you're professional, you're not just some dude that they pulled out of, okey dokey saloon, I'm just saying, yeah. But go back and look, check and verify that I'm right, but I remember living through it and seeing news stories of this new trend. Is it a good thing? Yeah, okay, yeah, so yeah, it was like, okay. I mean, if you heard stories about me, like I'm going online on sites to watch videos of women beating each other up because of, you want to pay money for that. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Before UFC, I think people would have been like, why are you doing that? Why would you want to do that? Because guys aren't supposed to want, I don't know, are we supposed to kind of like play with our tendency of violence, gender violence? I mean, if two women want to fight, that's their choice, but you got like mostly men in the crowd who are getting off on it. Is that a good thing? Like, I'll pay money to see two women smack themselves in the face. I'm asking.
It's definitely become normal in this now. So. Well, at least in American country. I mean,
It's okay to beat women up. Well, not if you're a guy, but two women can beat each other up. And I can watch Mr. Saunders. That's legit. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Saunders.
Like stereotypes that are probably and like one of those things is like aggression and like physicalness. is kind of a stereotype put on like boys, which is why probably a lot of men grow up being more physically aggressive, even in like celebrating, like they'll be like hitting their teammates and whatnot. It's just kind of like the societal expectation.
Interesting. Interesting. That's interesting. You're taking that class. Bring more of it. I'm not a psychologist. You know more. You're the expert here on developmental psychology. Well, you are. You know more than I do. I think you are. Okay. Interesting. I don't know. Because I'm from a certain age. I'm not I'm not judging anybody. Okay. I'm not, I'm not saying whatever, but I'm just, when I was growing up, this was like pounded into us, like, men are the most, common source of violence against women, so you're not, stay away. You're not supposed to like that kind of stuff. You're not supposed to get off on watching women be beaten up or beat each other up or whatever. That's my age group. But now it seems to be okay. I'm not adjusting well to it, Ms. Krause. Yes, Mr. Lynch. Yes. All right. Well, anyways, back to Lawrence. Humans are more prone to aggression because culture releases them from nature's harmonies. Oh, that's interesting. What the heck? What does that mean? I wrote this down in my notes. I'm like, did I say that out loud, Ms. Rogers? You gotta tell me when I say the quiet part out loud, please.
I just heard a grandkid that.
Ms. Rogers. Okay, culture gives us, I guess, permission is what he's saying. If we were more in harmony with our natural state, I guess he's saying we wouldn't be more prone to aggression. Okay, well, tell me.
Because being as violent as we could be. Because I feel like naturally we are like, is primates the right word?
What, primates? Well, yeah, we're
animals in a sense. In their natural habitat rather than in culture or controlled environments.
So like these guys were saying, like in UFC, they start putting rules on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put rules on the violence.
So I feel like it would, humans were in tune more with their natural self would be more prone to violence rather than
Would that be okay?
That's my choice to make.
Well, what do you mean? It's the choice of nature. I mean, if we're primates, we're descended from the general group of primates. We're related to other monkeys and gorillas and stuff like that. That's where our ancestors came from. And it's just, they're violent, and it's normal for other animals to be violent. So what's wrong with that? Is that okay? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I feel like in a natural setting for this. Like, take the example of primates, like they did, for violence to occur, there was usually some sort of altercation between two primates, whether it be over food, space, attraction of another primate, like it was just to assert dominance in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So could it have been not necessarily like passed down to like over generations and generations to what you would call today like humans in a sense, and it's like it's a modified version of dominance.
Interesting.
Because if you take the UFC example where they're fighting each other, they're doing it for rank or dominance to see who's the best fighter.
Yeah.
So
there's also perks, right? So you got money involved.
right.
Okay. Yeah, so you want to get more pay, bigger payout.
Bigger pay and title and bragging rights.
Bragging, I got you, Ms. Lazarus. I'm just curious because you brought that up. Bragging about what? Bragging over whom?
Their peers.
Okay.
They're the best.
All right.
What about in the vision?
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Lazarus, what do you...
I feel like we haven't really like we haven't really, as like people in our society, I feel like we haven't stepped out of those ways, like those aggressive ways and tendencies, like similar to animals. Because I know, like, at least like the people I hang around with, or like me personally, like if you look at me too long, like what, you know what I mean? Kind of like where are you looking at? Or, like, it kind of like makes me mad because what are you looking at? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, no, I know what you mean.
Like that comes from like us being around here so long with us so really being people. So I feel like we haven't really stepped out of it. Like everyone's saying, we just said it's modified and
Thank you.
well, no, it's like there's restrictions and modifications on it because like I can't just go around punching everybody who looks at me too long
Why not?
because I'm not doing it.
Oh,
That's why it's gonna. I don't know. If everybody does it, chaos is just gonna like be everywhere because like okay, somebody can feel that way about me, but I just worry something.
Mr. Dobson, do you have your hand up, students? No. I'm just wondering, with what you said, Ms. Levy, I mean, why should there be any rules, though? You say it would be chaos, but so
Because
what?
it's like form of like, oh, you did this to me. Like it could be different. Like a lot of people like there's certain people in this world that like let a lot of stuff just go. Like, but other people like the minute it bothers them, like
Yeah.
after you, then I
Hire more dominant right?
Yeah.
Especially animals as well.
Yeah.
You know, a lion dominates the rest of the pride so he can have the female. And the other males in the pride kowtow to him. Kowtow to him, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works, right? Shouldn't it work that way with us?
Sometimes I feel like I'm not always acting on like impulse or how you feel like it shows like not intelligence, but like it shows that you can like pick up things all you know.
More rational than, say, a lion on the truck. He could be ruled this hard. If you want to just go around punching people in the nose, I'm assuming you have a reason. I'm not assuming you're just going nuts, you know? Or like Ms. Lazarus said, well, you don't want to get arrested or anything like that. But sure, you'll be arrested for that. Like, why should there be any rules against that? Are animals aggressive? Some of them. Yeah, some of them. Do animals attack and kill each other? Yeah, sometimes. Not always, but we're not. What are we? Well, Homo sapiens. We're hominids. But if we trace it back, do we come from other animals?
I don't believe it.
Okay, that's fine. I kind of believe, I have a qualified belief in that myself, yes. But that's what we're told in science class, right? We're told that you follow the tree branch back far enough, it all goes into the same trunk of animal, right? Animal and apparently lizard and slimy starfish and so all sorts of and then primordial gunk. It's biology, isn't it? We're all related. So why should there be any rules? I mean, if other animals can kill at will, rape, have sex. I don't remember I've seen a lion ask a lioness for permission. When she's in heat, she's ready, and he goes after her. He smells the chemicals, he's producing. Whammo! He knows it's time. So why should there be any rules against our aggression? It's perfectly natural, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. What a cult leader. I told him I'm trying to found my own cult, Miss Strauss. I'm just getting it off the ground. That's why I'm teaching you. You people are my guinea pigs.
Oh, the question is natural?
Huh?
I don't think the question is natural.
No, I do think it's natural.
Do you think it should be true?
Huh?
You think it should be true?
Of course. Of course. But I'm just looking at the biological bases, right? What does our biology say? You know, I believe we're animals and that God at some time intervened with us. You know, probably around the time one of our ancestors was figured out 1 + 1 = 2. You know, like, whoa, ooh. Yeah, male or female, and then a light went off, and God's like, I can deal with that one. The other monkeys, let him play with their poop. This one, well, he still plays with his poop, but he's figured out 1 + 1. All right, I can work with that, and you give him a soul, you know. But yeah, because what I'm trying to get, why would there be any morality surrounding aggression if the biological bases of our behavior are 100% absolute? Then why should there be any morality? Only the restrictions, I got you. Let me finish my thought. Only the restrictions that we want to place on them. But we don't have to. They're not inherent. Like, it's not wrong necessarily, I guess, to intend to kill somebody. We just decide that you shouldn't do it. We don't want a chaotic society. Go ahead.
I was trying to say, like, the difference between us and other animals is that, like, we're more logical.
Yeah.
We could, like, say,
That's what I'm saying.
we could rationalize things.
You said that. I got you.
But it's like, we may feel some or have different temperaments, which causes, like, I guess, innate behavior. But, like, we could think about it, internalize it, and think, will these actions based off of my, like, feeling consequences? And then we could be like, oh, well, they will, so it's not even right.
Okay. Where you don't think, like, as my example before, a lion attacking other lion, you don't think they're thinking about the consequences. They're just totally reactive. Okay.
Thinking it's too much.
Okay. There might be some thought there. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Lazarus. Yeah.
I think the reason why we're not as aggressive as other animals is because we're so we're advanced. We're still animals. We're just the most advanced ones on the planet. Not or on the planet, but we have things like cars, we have schools, we have other things that propel us. Maybe not I don't know not forward, but they build a society that in a structure that we follow. And I feel because we value that so much. And as a human society, we don't really do anything really tarnish it or do anything intentional to let that fall. And then I've heard things I think it's hormonal. I think aggression is hormonal. With testosterone, the person in front of me just said that they're taking on developmental sight, and there's the rhesus monkey experiment where they give newborn monkeys a little surge of testosterone and they instantly get aggressive. Or that's women. When they get their period, that's when they get that surge of testosterone. That's why they're so aggressive. That's why they're so emotional. They're acting like men.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't say that. I just want, for the record,
I'm not just saying
because again, from my age, they're not supposed to say those things about women. Not supposed to notice those things about women. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, so interesting. So, but let me ask you something. So, your argument that humans are less aggressive, I guess, what was your argument? We're less aggressive because
they value the society.
Okay. Are humans less aggressive?
No, I feel they just it's self-control. They stop it because okay, well, I do have a job and I have a family to provide for. I need money. I do this and I don't have money. Back to the rationalizing things.
Okay.
Because they want.
If that's the case, you think that way. I have a family. I have children that I love that I want to take care of. I have a job that I want to continue. Yes, I can make money. Would it ever occur to someone, a rational being, to build a nuclear weapon?
I mean, some have, but nobody's really I don't know. I think people just existing and surviving and having fun while they're doing that, not really I think it's a balance of the two.
A balance. So you can have that good stuff, family life and stuff, but also mass destruction.
I mean,
Uh,
to a certain extent, there's plenty of people in this world who like have kids, but they also do like horrible things.
Yeah, would you, if you had children, would you even think about participating in like building an atom bomb or something?
No.
Well, then does that
That's
fall into your job description? Because if you're a scientist employed by the government to put things together, figure out if you can do that, possibly, like that's kind of unintentionally creating harm, but extending our knowledge of our world. Like, should that be brought into, they're just doing their job?
Following orders. The Nazis conducted all sorts of experiments on people that they had in the booming game. Genetics even helped really put forward this Howard Gennard knowledge of genetics, especially since they did on twins. Dr. Mengele, very famous. And there was an ethical debate after World War II. We should use that knowledge. I don't know. Yeah. Yes, I got you. You're right. I'll see you next week. Keep that thought, Miss Lazarus. Very good.